religion you're allowed to do anywhere.
No, miss, you're not allowed to sing church songs outside of church grounds, by the way.
You're not allowed to sing church songs outside
of church songs or church
you're not allowed
grounds. That's fine. That's
you're
fine.
not allowed. She just said you're not allowed to sing church songs outside of church.
Outside of church grounds, unless you have unless
That's
you've been authorized by the church to do this kind of song.
He's not saying anything anymore.
Are you saying that you don't care about the Human Rights Act? You're lost?
I don't know what the heck is happening, but I never needed the church permission to sing a song on the streets. I bet she won't do that to any other religion though.
Tommy Robinson has suggested that you should be the leader for Reform UK. Why laughing?
So can I just start where I'd like to start, if I may, rather than going into who should take over as leader of Reform?
Well, no, that's why I brought you in. That's a specific question to know.
Elon Musk is the richest man in the world, runs businesses successfully. He's got attention to detail. He develops his views, possibly very rapidly, but he's capable of attention to detail and forming a view quickly and putting it out there. There has been a rift coming between Nigel Farage and Elon Musk over the last 3 days, and actually I think your interview with Nigel yesterday was the last straw for Elon. So just to explain to people where the rift came.
Very simple. The rift came from this. Nigel Farage says he will explain to Elon Musk that Tommy Robinson is in prison for contempt of court, not because he's exposing a special gang. But Elon responded, I know he is in prison for contempt of court for F's sake, but there is no justification for such a long prison sentence or for solitary confinement.
So just to explain to people where the rift came, what Elon said was that Tommy Robinson is a political prisoner. And Nigel came on your show and he said, no, he's not. He's in jail for contempt. And actually, technically, and in all material respects, Nigel is wrong. Because Tommy Robinson was, the charge of contempt was brought by the Attorney General, who is a Labour-appointed political figure. So it was a political individual that brought the charge for contempt against Tommy Robinson. And Tommy Robinson was in dispute over a civil matter. It wasn't a criminal matter. And it is highly unusual for the Attorney General to get involved in a civil dispute. And they're only allowed to do it if there's a matter of public interest at stake.
I still remember when you called the cops and they said, we can't do anything about it. It's an issue with your wife. It's a civil matter. We can't do anything. I was like, really? But if suddenly a politician comes by and says, hey man, I'm going to decide what's happening in that civil house. I don't think it's a civil matter anymore.
Level, and they're only allowed to do it if there's a matter of public interest at stake. And at no level could anyone say that Tommy Robinson's video that he released, which was apparently in contempt of court, at no level could anyone say that it was worthy of incarcerating him because it was contempt of court. And so at one level, yes, Tommy Robinson was in contempt of court and went to jail as a result of it. But fundamentally, it was a political figure that brought the charge against Tommy Robinson for contempt, and his incarceration was way over the top for a civil judgment.
And I think it's as over the top as the guy called Jordan Pollard from Leeds that was sentenced for 20 months in prison for using a threatening and abusive language intended to incite racial hatred. But then again, a person gets deleted and 2 people get released from prison after 6 months because the prison is overcrowded under labor. I think something is a little wild about this information.
And he said that, I'll explain it to Elon. Well, actually, Elon, I'm sure, would have read was way over the top for a civil judgment. And Nigel came on your show and he said that, I'll explain it to Elon. Well, actually, Elon, I'm sure, would have read how it was that the contempt of court case was brought against Tommy Robinson, and how Tommy Robinson ended up in jail. And I can't agree more with Elon Musk. Tommy Robinson became the political victim of a narrative and an ideology that has taken hold in this country, where you're not allowed to challenge any ethnic minority given root through diversity, equity and inclusion, the regulatory and legislative framework which you and I have discussed many times on programs before. Now, you don't have to be a believer in Tommy Robinson. You don't have to be a denouncer of Tommy Robinson, but you've got to stick to the facts. And Nigel got the facts completely wrong when it came to Tommy Robinson's incarceration. And Tommy Robinson responded, Elon Musk responded to her
But he is effectively in prison for contempt of court.
Yeah, but
that doesn't
brought by a political figure.
Doesn't mean that. But both two things can be true at the same time. One can be that he is in prison for contempt of court, which is true. The other can be that ultimately he's a political prisoner. Why can those two things not be?
But the key point is that it was a politically motivated court case, and that's what Elon was saying.
If I do a bad thing and people hate me, cool. But if I do a bad thing, but a politician comes personally at me saying I'm not allowed to speak about the thing that happened, and if I do, he'll do something about it, that's kind of political.
Just one more thing I'd like to say. Elon Musk is someone who is prepared to test the shifting of the Overton window. And it is vital, by the way, that we test the shifting of the Overton window across Western civilization. The reason I'm in politics is because I think that Western civilization, the United Kingdom, most pertinently in my case, faces an existential threat at multiple levels. And it's because of the way we've been governed for 27 years, and we need a 180-degree change in the way that we're governed. We will not achieve the change in the way that this country is governed unless we're prepared to test the Overton window. And Nigel, I'm afraid, has been extremely timid over the last few months in the way that he's gone about progressing reforms progress.
I think the number of people that have been arrested for just social media posts is bananas. It's in the thousands.
Yes, several thousand people have been given prison sentences in the UK for social media posts where there was no explicit link to actual violence, but they just said it encouraged violence. I'm like, well, did anyone actually do anything as a result of that media post? Well, no. But they're just, and then they have a prison overcrowding situation in the UK, so they're quite literally releasing convicted pedophiles and putting people in jail for Facebook posts. That's an actual thing happening in Britain.
That is so wild.
And I think JD Vance has an interesting point about UK advancing.
I was talking with a friend recently, and we were talking about, one of the big dangers in the world, of course, is nuclear proliferation, though, of course, the Biden administration doesn't care about it. And I was talking about, what is the first truly Islamist country that will get a nuclear weapon? And we were like, maybe it's Iran, maybe Pakistan already kind of counts. And then we sort of finally decided maybe it's actually the UK, since Labour just took over.
And a lot of people didn't like that comment, but then again, when you look at UK a lot, you see a lot of this. And then I would say, don't be surprised people say this, not because a politician said it.
London doesn't feel fully English to me anymore.
No.
Right? New York, of course, is the classic American city.
Yeah.
Over time, I think New York will start to feel less American.
Yeah.
Everything becomes flattened and becomes the same.
Yeah.
And like real diversity actually is like, I'd kind of like to go to a different place and have it be different.
You want Paris to be Paris.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And not have it all just feel the same.
Right.
Right. That is, I think, a diversity that I can get behind.
People see people see financial migration as an opportunity to go into a country, not respect the laws, the culture, set up a profitable business, and then send that money back to another country. It doesn't seem like a sustainable model.
No, and you have no investment in that country. We want people who have investments in a place to care about.
And this whole conversation is bad for a lot of people. I'm not saying Western countries didn't do bad things, but the place they're escaping from, you can tell me Western people made it bad. Everybody had dictator. I think America was the first one that actually had a general normal democracy compared to everybody else. But because it comes from an empathetic point of view, we need to take it in consideration. And I want to take it in consideration, but too many people have lied to me.
Do you know what else is not in the Constitution?
Real quick, she's a doctor. Continue.
Do you know what else is not in the Constitution? Your right to vote. Your right.
Voting, voting, and voting. Remember, she's a doctor.
Your right to marry.
Marriage, marriage, marriage. She's a doctor.
Right to privacy.
Privacy. But she's a doctor.
Your right to a fair trial by your peers.
Fair trial, fair trial, fair trial, fair trial. This is a doctor.
There is also no mention of women or any women's rights in the Constitution. I'm not saying that the Constitution is not important, but it is outdated.
You have never read it. You're a doctor.
I do care that she's empathetic about certain things, and that's why she can speak with confidence. But there's a whole different issue when you speak with confidence without knowing the exact information. But by moral points, I'm not supposed to call you out, because that's a hate crime. Ladies and gentlemen, just an Arab influencer called Atala Younes, and he did this in Germany, and he came from West Bank, and he was about to go back to his own country, and he got arrested. And the first thing he called out, racism.
Don't get me wrong, ako sa kitabang puta fire na mi blonde kush hash purple skunk criollo colombici jam jam turlo keta verdeta welcome.